25. So far, we've looked in this little bit of a line that we've had. Abraham and Isaac. Remember, we're going down this line. It's important to keep that trinity together, or that trio kind of together. That's where the Jewish nation came from. That's where all our blessings come from. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And that's kind of what we're trying to get a little bit of a history there, to get that in our minds so that we're solid on Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. And we'll see as time goes on, we'll see that God changes Jacob's name to Israel. And then he has the 12 patriarchs. So we're going to, thank you. He's going to have the 12 patriarchs, and we'll see how then from everything comes from. So it's very important for us to get that solid foundation. Again, if I can speak of my father, twice he was a carpenter. And they understood if you're going to build a building, you have to have that solid foundation. And my father said that when they build something, they always start at the same corner. Everything's measured from the same corner. They know, so we need to get this solid foundation of our biblical history, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. Now, the Muslim nation has Abraham, Esau. And they've got the wrong brother in there, so therefore they've got the wrong doctrine. And they've got the wrong God. Is this recorded? Truth is truth. Genesis chapter 25, we're going to pick it up here. Remember, Abraham married Sarah. They had Isaac, and Isaac was a child of promise. Isaac was born late in life. Sarah was barren. Abraham, I believe, was 99. Sarah was like 89 when Isaac was born. So now Abraham, now Isaac, now Isaac is getting married, and Isaac is going to have a son, or going to have a couple sons. And something about the Bible here, when the Bible speaks, it puts everything in. You know, if we talk to somebody, well, how's your family doing? Oh, they're doing great. We don't mention what the crazy uncle's doing, or, you know, my cousin out in California. You know, we don't mention everything because, you know, there's some things we're a little embarrassed about, some things we're ashamed of, some things we don't want people to know. But when God speaks and when God writes a history here, he tells it plain, he tells it clear, and it's just as plain as can be. If you've seen soap operas, if there's any reason that a person should work, it's so that they're not home during the day having to watch soap operas. If there's vacation and I'm home and the TV's on, you know, it's like you're in your pocket looking for some lint so you can weave a rope to hang yourself, because you're watching these soap operas. It's terrible. I mean, it's insane. I've seen little bits and pieces of soap operas, and it doesn't matter if you see one in 1980 and you didn't see it again until 1997. You pick right up. It's the same thing. The history of mankind, and specifically even the history of Israel, the history of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, it reads like a soap opera. It is. There are lies. There's deception. There's treachery. There's plots for murder. And this is God's chosen people here. And you know what? God's chosen people aren't any better than the Gentiles. In fact, us Gentiles may be worse than that. But we're going to see very plainly that the great people of history, when you put them under the microscope, we see very clearly the verse that says, all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. So when we look at our family and we look at the things going on in our families, and the nuttiness, the craziness, the plots, all these things that go on now in our families, it's exactly the same thing that was going on here, and God records everything. He gives us an honest account of what's going on. And so if he gives us an honest account of these great leaders and their flaws and their problems, even such as David, an adulterer and a murderer, and yet a man after God's own heart. You know, did I get that one right? A man after God's own heart. Abraham's the friend of God. David, a man after God's own heart. So let us not waste time being embarrassed or ashamed of our crazy family members. Let's just move on and serve God. You know. So let's take a look at this. Genesis chapter 25. We're going to look at verse 19, and we're going to pick it up here. And I'm going to read a few things. This is the story of Isaac. Remember Isaac met Rebekah. Eliezer went to receive her and bring her back as the Holy Spirit brings us to Christ. Verse 19. And these are the generations of Isaac, Abraham's son. Abraham begot Isaac, and Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah to wife. So we get some history here. When Isaac married Rebekah, he was 40 years old. Now, they both wanted children. And we're going to see here that just as Abraham was, Abraham and Sarah were, Rebekah was barren for 20 years. For 20 years after they got married, they wanted children. And Isaac, verse 20, I'm sorry. If you don't, bear with me. And verse 20, Genesis chapter 25, verse 20. And Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah to wife, the daughter of Bethuel, the Syrian of Padan Aram, I think, the sister to Laban and the Syrian. Verse 21. And Isaac entreated the Lord for his wife because she was barren, and the Lord was entreated of him, and Rebekah his wife conceived. And the children struggled together within her, and she said, if it be so, why am I thus? She couldn't figure out what was going on. There's a battle going on inside her stomach. I guess it's bad enough when, women, the baby kicks and stuff like that. Can you imagine two of them in there fighting? The woman was probably going crazy. Verse 22, and the children struggled together within her, and she said, if it be so, why am I thus? What's going on? And she went to inquire of the Lord. And the Lord said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb. Isn't it interesting the way these things are? He's talking about 2 children, and there are going to be 2 nations formed out of that, just as there were 2 nations formed from the children of Abraham. Verse 23, and the Lord said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb, and 2 manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels, and the one shall be stronger than the other, and the elder shall serve the younger. There's a lot going on right here. He's saying that the first child that comes out is going to be a strong child, and we're going to see this Esau was a hunter, a man's man, if you will. He was big, he was hairy, he was tough, he was out hunting and great with a bow. And the second child, not quite so. The second child was more tender and soft. And but what we're going to find out here, that God tells her something, that even though the elder son should be in charge, it's the younger son that's going to rule. And it's hard for these people to understand this stuff back then. Verse 23, and the Lord said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb, and 2 manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels. And the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger. That's just not supposed to be so in that culture, but that's God says this is how it's going to be, and we're going to see how that's fulfilled. We're going to see that the younger child, Jacob, was quite a character. Esau was a man's man, and we're going to see that Jacob was a little bit of a cheat, a little bit of a con man, a little bit of a liar. We're going to see that very clearly as time goes on. He wasn't necessarily a good person. Neither one of them actually were. Both children were concerned about themselves and no one else. And we'll see that as we go on. Now, let's read verse 24 on. And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. And the first came out red. This is kind of funny almost. 25. But isn't it, when someone has a child, one of the first things a lot of people say is, "What, did they have a lot of hair?" I had one of our nieces was born And when she was born, she kind of like, you know how old men get that male pattern baldness? No, no, not a clue. Don't know what that is. Well, my niece, my niece looked like an old man there. She had that, babies are supposed to be cute, but she was one of the homeliest things in the world. I keep thinking, boy, does that restrict you? And saying, I think about that stuff, and I think it's too late, and I can't take it back. I just didn't say which niece, so she does. All my nieces are probably going like this right now. But my niece now is, I think, got to be 40 or so, 38 to 40. A beautiful young woman. She got all her hair. But here, verse 24, and when her days were to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. And the first came out red all over like a hairy garment. Looked like he had a red sweater on, Verse 26, did I read that? Verse 25. And the first came out red all over like a hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. And after that came his brother out, and his hand took hold on Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob. And Isaac was 80 years old when she bare him. So here Isaac is 60 years old. I can't imagine that. Now, I'm 61. I can't imagine having a 1-year-old child at this point. But of course, they live to be a little bit longer or older than we are. But, excuse me, I'll try. As Esau came out as the first child coming out, Jacob reached down and grabbed his heel. And this is going to be significant. There's significant symbolism to this as we find out that Jacob, all his life, is trying to grab on to what Esau has and take it. We're going to see that. And we're going to see to the point as we go here where Esau says, as soon as Daddy dies, I'm going to kill my brother. Because Jacob cheated and conned his brother and took things from his brother that he shouldn't have taken from his brother. Now this is Jacob, who later is called Israel. So we see that all have sinned. And so it's amazing how God, with his mercy and his grace, from Genesis to Revelation, we have the grace of God. If it wasn't for the grace of God, we wouldn't even be here today. And we see how grace works in the lives of these people, where God is merciful and allows these people to exist as he allows us. Think of yourself, in reality, should God allow us to exist? Thank God for his grace. Verse 26. And after that came his brother out, and his hand took hold on Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob. And Isaac was 80 years old when she bare them. And the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter, a man of the field, and Jacob was a plain man dwelling in tents. Again, as I mentioned, Esau was the macho one. He was the cool one. He was, when he walked, wow, he's neat. And then along comes maybe the nerd, Jacob was just plain. He was just normal. There was nothing really outstanding about him. There was nothing, nothing about his outside character would let you be impressed one way or the other about him. The two boys were totally different. They were twins, but they were totally different in personality and everything else. Verse 27, and the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter, a man of the field, and Jacob was a plain man dwelling in tents. And Isaac loved Esau. Now, we're going to see something here. This is what goes on here, right here. People have to be very, very careful of. Parents have to be very, very careful of. I thank God that I had a daughter and a son. Well, sometimes I question that. Am I thankful? But that's another sermon. But I thank God I had two different ones, because if if any of them saw any difference in the way that I treated them, I could pass it off as, well, this is my daughter, this is my son. But when you've got two sons, you've got to be careful to treat them. You don't treat them the same because they're different, but you treat them equally, if you know what I mean. You got to make sure that both of them clearly know that you love them equally. Or in a case of some people, 7, 8 kids, love those 7 or 8 kids equally. What happened to Joseph here later on, we're going to see that Joseph was hated by his brothers because his father loved him more than he loved them. So be very careful here. Look at verse 28, the mistake parents make. Verse 28, and Isaac loved Esau because he did eat of his venison, but Rebekah loved Jacob. So you see right here, there's a division in the family right off the bat. They were praying for these children. It took 20 years for her to conceive and have a child. And in this case, God gave her twins, 2 different boys. The father drew towards the one and the mother drew towards the other. And that is something that people should be very aware of. And again, you love them equally. They're different in personality and everything else, but you've got to love your children equally. They've got to know that you love them equally. A lot of the problem here, I wonder if these kids played one against the other all the days of their life. But Isaac loved Esau. Why? Esau went out and hunted and took care of his belly. Isaac loved to take care, loved his belly to be full, and his son took care of that stuff, and he loved that. Jacob hung around his mother and worked. We're going to see here in the next couple of verses that he must have cooked with his mother and maybe did some of the house chores with his mother. It's like some people say, like where they don't. The apron strings are right there and they don't let loose. I see that with my own grandson Jacob, which is the same type of thing here. He can't get 2 feet away from my daughter Jennifer. The other guys just take off and run like animals. And Jacob, stays real close to my daughter. Of course, Jacob and Kyle both have learning disabilities, and so, but Jacob really sticks real close to his mother. But look at. We're going to start to see something going on here between the 2 brothers in verse 29 down to verse 34, which causes serious problems to the point where one of the brothers is going to kill the other brother, and one had to escape, and they didn't see each other for another 20 years. It's a mess. It's a soap opera. It's a mess. It's God showing us the reality of people. Verse 29, and Jacob sowed pottage, and Esau came from the field, and he was faint. So Esau was out hunting all day. Apparently, he wasn't that good a hunter. He didn't get anything. He was out hunting all day long, and he came back to the house. He was starving. He was exhausted. He was to the point of collapse. And we're going to see how Jacob is really starting to show what a crooked con man he is. Verse 29. And Jacob sowed pottage, and Esau came from the field, and he was faint. And Esau said to Jacob, feed me, I pray thee, with the same red pottage, for I am faint. Therefore was his name called Edom. It has to do with the red pottage. What is the red pottage? Basically a bowl of chili, beans, lentil beans. So here's a guy. Esau, remember, Esau was the firstborn by about a minute or something, but he was the firstborn. So because Esau was the firstborn, he had rights that nobody else had. When you're firstborn, when you're the firstborn, now there's firstborn, secondborn, thirdborn, lastborn. The joke is always the people who get all the attention are the firstborn and the lastborn, and the middle child nobody cares about. I'm a middle child. I kind of know I can scream and yell. A lot of times I ask Chris, can people see me? Can you hear me, Chris? I mean, the kids can't. Nobody can hear me. I'm definitely a middle child. Nobody's going to pay attention to me. But what we've got right here, the firstborn in this culture has rights and privileges that are really good. The firstborn is the spiritual leader as well as the judge and the decision maker in the family. For the entire family after the death of his father. In other words, if a man had, take Jennifer and Kevin, for instance, my daughter and they had 7 children, 5 boys, 2 girls. If they were abiding by this culture, Kevin would be in charge. If Kevin dies, then his son, the firstborn Kevin, would be the spiritual leader, the spiritual judge, the judge and the guide of the whole family. He would take over for the father. And as long as he was, he was the head of the tribe, if you want to call it that way. And when it came to inheriting the stuff from the father, everybody would get a portion, but the firstborn would get a double portion. So he would not only be the head, the judge, the leader, the decision maker of the whole family, he would get a double portion of anything that was inherited from the father. So it was an important position to be the firstborn. Now, Esau was the firstborn, and Esau, we're going to see right here, is ready to sell that position for a bowl of chili. And that should tell us a whole lot about Esau. He had no concern for responsibility. He had no concern for tradition. All he was concerned about was satisfying the flesh. He was hungry. He wanted to eat. Nothing else mattered. Verse 29. And Jacob sowed pottage, and Esau came from the field, and he was faint. And Esau said to Jacob, feed me, I pray thee, with that same red pottage, for I am faint. Therefore was his name called Edom. And Jacob said, sell me this day thy birthright. Here's Jacob. His brother's starving. He just comes in. What about, you talk about sibling love? Wasn't there just a sibling day or something a few days ago? I don't know. I haven't seen my... I lived till Friday on a street where I lived within 2 blocks of 2 of my brothers, for 10 years. We hardly ever saw each other except maybe Christmas. We never fought or anything like that. We just moved in different circles. I went to church and they went to the bar. They loved pool and alcohol, and I loved the Bible and singing about the Lord. I have no idea why I have no idea exactly why I brought that up, but what we have here is his brother comes in tired, starving, exhausted, and here's Jacob there, probably got an apron on, stirring this chili, and his brother says, give me something to eat here. I'm exhausted. Help me. I'm going to faint here. And loving Jacob looks at him and says, hey, you're really hungry? Yeah. I'll tell you what, Esau, if you sell me your birthright, I'll rather trade. I'll trade. You give me your birthright, and I'll give you a bowl of soup here. And we see that Esau says, well, hey, what good, he's going to say it right in here. What good is that to me? What good is my birthright to me? I'm going to be dead in a few minutes if I don't eat. Well, I'm sure he was over-exaggerating, but that's exactly what he said. Verse 30. And Esau said to Jacob, feed me, I pray thee, with that same red pottage, for I am faint. Therefore was his name called Edom. And Jacob said, sell me this day thy birthright. And Esau said, behold, I am at the point to die, and what profit shall this birthright do to me? And Jacob said, swear to me this day. And he sware unto him, and he sold his birthright unto Jacob. And Jacob gave Esau bread and pottage of lentils, and he did eat and drink, and rose up and went his way. Thus Esau despised his birthright. Esau right there sold a very important thing in this culture. He took what was vastly important in a family, which was his birthright as the firstborn, and he sold that important issue for a bowl of soup. A lot of times we sell God out, we sell family out, we sell loved ones out, we sell friends out for about something that's not any more valuable than that. And we've got to be very careful. We see right here that Jacob and Esau, with this particular event, it sets some things in motion that will cause a mother to send her son away so that the other son doesn't kill her. The mother, we're going to see as we go through here, Oh, we got a little bit of time here. Let me take a quick drink. I'm doing a whole lot better than I thought I was going to be doing with that. Let's see what we... let's get in here. Let's go over to chapter 27. What we have here is Esau and Jacob, two brothers, fighting, one kind of conning the other one out of his birthright. It's bad enough that Jacob would con his brother out of the birthright, but it's just as bad that his brother had no regard for that birthright, that he would sell it so cheaply. And we don't understand these things. I was talking the other day to someone that we say the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, and this day, especially the younger people, they don't get this. They don't understand. When I grew up, that flag was something you would die for. That meant something. It wasn't just a piece of cloth with stripes and stars. That was the symbol of everything that America was about. And wars were fought. People died so that flag could fly. Not for the flag itself to fly, but that flag could fly, symbolizing what America meant and what a nation under God meant. And the symbolism was something that meant something. That's why so often when we go through the Word of God and we read the Word of God, we don't get what it's meaning because we don't understand the symbolism in this. And we miss so much because we do not realize the symbolism. And so the symbolism there was one boy cheated the other one out of a birthright, and the other one said the birthright's no big deal, you can have it. And it was a horrible thing. So as time passed, Isaac becomes old. And his two sons are still there. Isaac gets old, and it's time for Isaac to sit down and bless his children. And there again, something we don't understand. I don't, in my family, my father didn't sit down and bless us and, that type of thing. There again, because people just didn't get the symbolism and the importance of things. But here, Isaac is old, and he's going blind, and he wants to bless his children. Especially the firstborn, and give his firstborn the blessing before God, which carries a tremendous amount of weight in this culture. Chapter 27, verse 1. And it came to pass that when Isaac was old and his eyes were dim, so that he could not see, he called Esau, his eldest son, and said unto him, My son. And he said unto him, Behold, here am I. And he said, Behold, now I am old. I know not the day of my death. Now therefore take, I pray thee, thy weapons, thy quiver, and thy bow, and go out to the field, and take me venison, and make me savory meat, such as I love, and bring it to me, that I may eat, that my soul may bless thee before I die. And Rebekah heard when Isaac spake to Esau his son, and Esau went to the field to hunt for venison and to bring it. Now, it's interesting here. Rebekah overheard this. Remember when Abraham was talking to the angel of God, Sarah overheard them talk. Here, Isaac is talking to his son, and Rebekah overhears. I don't know, is there something going on here where all these women are kind of listening to what's going on? They're maybe they're just trying to figure out what's going on. But Rebekah hears Isaac say, Esau, go out, get a venison. Cook this thing. I love it. I'm going to eat this thing. And then after I eat this venison, I am going to bless you. Now, that means nothing to us. And I wish it did, because we could understand so much more how important this is when we read it in the Bible. The father is going to bless the son, put his hands on him and bless him. And Rebekah hears this. And remember, Rebekah loves Jacob. She's not that fond of Esau. Isaac loves Esau. And so Rebekah says, hey, I want my son. They're both her sons. I want my favorite son here to get the blessing. He deserves it. He's good. according to her. So we're going to see something here. Mommy and Daddy here aren't spotless themselves. Isaac loves one at the exclusion of the other, and we're going to see here that Rebekah, who puts Jacob under her wings and takes care of him, she's ready to lie and deceive and to cheat her husband so that her precious son can get the blessing instead of the other one. See how this stuff works as a soap opera? And when we look at our own family and we got the crazies in our family and stuff like that, guess what? Nothing's changed. It's all the same. People are people. There's nothing special about these people back here. They're exactly the way we are. And that's something we got to realize. These aren't super people. These aren't superhumans. These are normal people trying to live their daily lives and dealing with the sin in their lives. So look what goes on here. We'll have to finish this up again next week, but let's get into a little bit of this. Verse 6. And just a second. And Rebekah spake unto Jacob her son, saying, Behold, I hear thy father speak unto Esau thy brother, saying, Bring me venison, and make me savory meat, that I may eat, and bless thee before the Lord before my death. Now therefore, my son, obey my voice according to that which I command thee. Go now to the flock, and fetch me from thence 2 good kids of the goats, and I will make them savory meat for thy father, such as he loveth. And thou shalt bring it to thy father, that he may eat, and that he may bless thee before his brother. So what happens here is Isaac says, Esau, go out, shoot yourself a venison there, cook it, bring it here, I'll eat it, and then I will bless you. And remember, Isaac at this point is blind. He can't see a thing. And his wife Rebekah hears this and wants Jacob to get the blessing. So Rebekah goes in here and tells Jacob, go out into the field, get a couple of kids, little goats, bring them to me. I'm going to cook these things exactly the way your father loves them. I know how your father loves this food. I'm going to cook it that way. You're going to go into your father with that food, and you're going to tell your father that you're Esau. He's going to eat this dinner. He's going to put his hands on you. He's going to bless you, and you're going to get the blessing above your brother. How's that for family love and life? You know, it'd be like in the mafia. You know, it's kind of scary that these people are, making each other offers they can't refuse. And so where'd I pick verse? I'll just read verse 9 again. Go now to the flock and fetch me from thence 2 good kids of the goats, and I will make them savory meat for thy father, such as he loveth. And thou shalt bring it to thy father, that he may eat, and that he may bless thee before his death. And Jacob said to Rebekah his mother, Behold, Esau my brother is a hairy man, and I am smooth. You know, like you guys who shave your heads nice and smooth, and then you get somebody like, Ben's got a nice bushy hair there, and he's red like Esau. It'd be like Jacob knows that if his father was to rub his head, it'd be nice and smooth, but if he was to rub Esau's head, it'd be a big bushy hair and arms. Must have had hair on his arms like an ape, You see these guys that their backs look like carpeting, and that's how Esau was. It's like, take your sweater off. Hey, it's not a sweater, and so Jacob said, I can't do this. My father will feel me and see that I'm not Esau, and he'll curse me. Verse 11, and Jacob said to Rebekah his mother, Behold, Esau my brother is a hairy man, and I am a smooth man. My father peradventure will feel me, and I shall see him, and I shall seem to him as a deceiver, which is exactly what he'd be. And I shall bring a curse upon me, and not a blessing. And his mother said unto him, Upon me be thy curse, my son. Only obey my voice, and go fetch me them. And you know what? When somebody says that, remember when Jesus was being crucified? They said, hey, crucify him, let his blood be upon us. Guess what? For the next 2,000 years, his blood was upon the nation of Israel. You got to be careful when you make statements like that. And we're going to find out something here where she says in verse 13, and his mother said unto him, upon me be thy curse. We're going to find out as we read through here that she sends him away. Go to my brother Laban and be there a few days, and then when Esau calms down, then you can come back. Well, you know what? He was gone 20 years, and when he came back, his mother was dead. Be careful when you sin. You know, it's not going to turn out the way you think. It's just getting good, and we got to stop. Let me read just down to verse 17, and then we'll pick this up next week and finish it out. Verse 13. And his mother said unto him, upon me be thy curse, my son. Only obey my voice, and go fetch me them. And he went and fetched and brought them to his mother, and his mother made savory meat, such as his father loved. And Rebekah took goodly raiment. Look at this, is hilarious, if you think about it. Verse 15. And Rebekah took goodly raiment for her eldest son from her eldest son Esau, which were with her in the house, and put them upon Jacob her younger son. And she put the skins of the kids of the goats upon his hands and upon the smooth of his neck. And she gave the savory meat and the bread which she had prepared into the hand of her son Jacob. Now I'm going to stop it right there because that's a good place to stop. Next week we'll look at this, and it's almost hilarious. It's deceptive. It's trickery. It's just so wrong. And we'll take a look at this next week and see the results of this right here. But